Hey guys, what's going on? Dr. Frank here, founder of Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching Programs. And in today's brief video, I want to take some time and talk about the reasons why I quit smoking weed. And then I want to tell you guys some of the ways that I went about quitting to hopefully make it an easier process for you. And hopefully you can avoid going through the things that I experienced. Here at Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching, we help people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content. So be sure to subscribe and comment if you find this content valuable. So reason number one why I quit smoking weed was because it started to become a chore. It started to become something that I felt like I had to do. This was super confusing for me because when I first started smoking, it was in college. And weed was something that I looked forward to smoking on the weekends. I was having fun with my friends doing it. And to be entirely honest, I don't think that was a bad thing. It really helped me to cut back on the binge drinking and all the other things that I was doing throughout most of college. So instead of being out at the bars until 4 a.m. here in Buffalo, New York, I was going to bed earlier. I wasn't out causing trouble. We were just watching movies, having a laugh, having a good time. But throughout the course of my weed smoking journey, it turned into something that I had to do every single night. And when I was in a situation or in a circumstance where I couldn't smoke, I would find myself becoming very frustrated, very agitated, very anxious throughout the evenings. My sleep was greatly disrupted when I couldn't smoke weed. And this was a major turning point for me, or a point where I should have realized, hey, this is becoming a problem. This is no longer something that you're doing out of enjoyment. This is something that you're doing because you have to be doing it. I was truly starting to develop an addiction and a dependence on weed, and I didn't want to acknowledge that. And two, based on all the social media content, all the people talking about the benefits of weed, it was really hard for me to believe that that was possible, that it was possible to develop an addiction and a dependence on weed like was happening to me. So that's reason number one. If smoking weed is starting to feel like a chore for you, starting to feel like something that you have to do, you might want to consider quitting. Reason number two, I was starting to develop a lot of social anxiety. When I first started smoking weed, I was under the impression that it was helping the anxiety, that it was fixing the stress, that it was fixing all those things. And the reality was, it was making those things much worse. I'm an extremely social person. I do well in large group settings. I always have. And I was losing that trait. I was losing that quality about myself. When I would find myself in a social interaction or in a large group setting, all I could think is, God, I can't wait to get out of here to go home and smoke. I don't want to be here. And it was really ruining my ability to properly communicate with people and properly grow relationships with people. And this was a massive problem, especially for someone who is in the process of trying to build businesses and trying to network and trying to grow their outreach. This is a huge problem. You know, having the ability to socialize, having the ability to communicate is so important for an individual's success. And in most cases, that's an important aspect of it. And weed was really starting to jeopardize that for me. And that was, again, a very confusing thing for me to accept, because here I was on one note thinking that the weed was helping me relieve the stress and relieve the anxiety, when all reality, looking back, it was making things 10 times worse. I was developing more anxiety because of the withdrawals and the cravings that I was experiencing on a day-to-day basis. Third, I was running into money issues. Now, I was spending maybe $50 a week on weed. Yeah, I was also spending money on alcohol and nicotine too. Now, fortunately, I had an income where I could support that. But here's where the trouble came into play. That was money that I wasn't putting towards building my future career, building my future lifestyle that I wanted for myself. That was money that I was no longer investing into things that I actually cared about or into things that I wanted to accomplish in my life. And when I was stuck in active addiction to weed, that wasn't that evident to me, that wasn't that obvious to me. But looking back, I really do have a lot of regrets with the amount of money that I invested into weed, because that was money that I could have been utilizing towards growing a YouTube channel or growing one of my other businesses. And that's just super damaging. I don't think people realize the amount of damage that occurs when you're spending that much money on weed. Not only is it the immediate money that you're spending, but it's money that you're not investing into building a better future for yourself, which ultimately is going to lead to more anxiety, more depression, more feelings of guilt, defeat, and regret in the long run. So if you're considering smoking and you are worried about the finances, don't think about the money that you're spending on it right now, but think about all the ways in which you're not making that money work for you, making that money work towards creating a better future for yourself. That's something I never understood. You know, it's amazing what the stock market can do with compounding interest, and it's amazing the revenue that building a business for yourself can bring in. And those were all things I never thought about. The anxiety was getting much worse. I talked a little bit about that with the social anxiety, but I was also starting to get panic attacks on a regular basis. Panic attacks were something I had never experienced, and every night when I would lay down in bed, I was starting to develop panic attacks, and I would think, okay, the only way to fix this is to go and smoke. And the reality of the situation was that was making everything worse. I was screwing up my endocannabinoid system. I was screwing up my brain's ability to properly assess and detox the events of the day. And that was simply leading to more anxiety and increased panic attacks. But I was stuck in that cycle where I thought that smoking was the only thing that was fixing those situations, when in all reality, it was just making those situations worse. And looking back, of course it was making those situations worse. Instead of facing the challenges that laid ahead of me, I was brushing them off to the side, so all of those problems were just compounding. I did eventually get involved into the black market THC products, and this was really the end of my weed smoking journey. This was what brought things to a rapid halt. Why did I get involved into the black market products? Well, it's pretty simple. I was chasing a high, and this is one of the most damaging things about addiction or dependence on marijuana products. Instead of chasing my goals, instead of chasing my ambitions, instead of chasing those things that I actually cared about in life, I was chasing a high. And the only way to enhance that high was to switch to stronger concentrations of THC products, whether that's dabs, pens, carts, whatever you want to call them. And that was the road that I had went down. And these things definitely provided a different type of high, but it was an extremely damaging high because they were more expensive, the anxiety was getting worse, the health problems were starting to get out of control. I was developing symptoms of Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome, that nausea in the morning, that body ache and pain only relieved by hot showers. I was really declining rapidly, and I was sacrificing so many other things in life just to chase after a high. And it was really a depressing place to be in because we talk about here at Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching, you have high quality sources of dopamine and low quality sources of dopamine. And if you're chasing after that high, chances are you're giving yourself, through the use of substances, you're probably providing your brain with a very low quality source of dopamine. You know, if I want to get high, I want to get high on building my business. I want to get high on developing a healthy relationship. I want to get high on bettering my mental health and my physical health, not high on some drug that's just destroying me. And those are really the main reasons why I quit smoking weed. How I quit was actually quite simple. I woke up one day and decided I was sick and tired of being sick. And the reality was the things I was doing, my current daily habits, my current daily routines, they were no longer serving me a purpose. They were no longer creating good in my life. They were taking my life in a very negative direction. So I woke up and I said, I'm done. I quit. I'm done with this. So I threw away all my stuff. I threw away all my products. And I faced, 4 or 5 days of pretty intense withdrawals, especially as coming off of the black market THC products. And after that, things started to get better. And then I slowly started to build upon all the things that I wanted to create for myself. I started to develop this business. I started to work harder in my other businesses. I started to go to the gym. I started to exercise again. I started to eat healthier. I simply took little obvious steps towards creating a better life for myself, managing stress through talk therapy and working with a therapist versus just running to substances. And it really wasn't hard. Like, quitting weed is as hard as you make it. If you view it as you're giving up something that you love, if you view it that you're giving up something that was bringing you a benefit, you're going to have a really hard time. But if you can start to see this addiction, especially if that's what you're going through right now, for what it really is, it's a failing investment. It's a drain on your money. It's a drain on your mental health. It's a drain on your finances. It's a drain on your relationships. It actually becomes quite easy to get up. But you have to realize that at this point in time, weed is probably no longer benefiting you. And that's hard to see. That's hard to accept, especially with social media and so many people talking about the benefits of weed right now, as we see medical and recreational legalization. But remember, just because it works for one person, or just because at one point in your life it worked for you, maybe it's run its course, and maybe it's time for you to start that next chapter of your life. So if you're thinking about quitting, I want you to follow me into the next video where I paint a timeline of THC withdrawal symptoms for you and what you can expect over the next few days, the next few weeks. I'll see you guys in the next video.